Diego's scary. It's not just that he's good, he's fucking scary. He's intense.
And from everywhere, like submissions,
knockouts, and his fucking stand-up is horrific.
Yeah.
So dangerous, man. You know, who did he fight? Super Sadiq Yusuf in his last fight? He stopped him in the first round. Before that fight, I was telling everybody, I was like, I think this guy's the guy. I think he's the next guy to emerge.
From the Amazon city of Manaus to the bright lights of the UFC, Diego Lopes' journey was never supposed to happen. A kid with a dream too big for Brazil, a fighter too dangerous to ignore. Born December 30th, 1994 in Manaus, Brazil, fighting was in Diego Lopes' blood. He was a BJJ purple belt by 16. He turned pro at just 18, winning his debut in September 2012.
Tengo 4 hermanos, entonces nosotros somos como más o menos de la misma edad. Entonces fue pues una infancia bien divertida. Yo siempre he hecho jiu-jitsu con mi hermano, con mi familia, con mis amigos. Ya hasta los 17 años fue cuando mi hermano llega conmigo y me ofrece mi primera pelea de MMA. Y a los 18 ya había hecho 5 peleas. De 17 a 18 años fue como muy corta, pero bastante activa, ¿no?
5 wins in his first 7 fights showed promise, but Brazil couldn't contain his ambition. At 19, destiny called from an unexpected place, Mexico. Jiu-jitsu instructor opportunity brought Lopes to Mexico, teaching others while sharpening his own skills. For 3 years, he disappeared from competition, but he was evolving. Then came the call that changed everything. October 5th, 2018, in the LUX Fight League, the Diego Lopes era was about to begin. Starting off with a first-round submission debut, then 2 dominant decisions over veterans Rony Jason and Alejandro Solano, Diego earned a title shot against champion Marco Beltran. One round, one knee bar, new LUX featherweight champion, Diego Lopes had arrived. Now that he had the belt, he soon had to defend it. First up, Maggio Fullen. A third-round armbar submission handed Lopes his first defense and an opportunity at the big leagues. Dana White's Contender Series, a chance to prove himself on the biggest stage. All that stood in Diego's way was beating Joanderson Brito and impressing Dana White to earn a UFC contract. It was a little too soon for Diego. An accidental eye poke led to a technical decision loss. Disappointed but not deterred, he left without a UFC contract. Most fighters would fade away. Lopes returned to Mexico more dangerous than ever. 2 more finishes. The UFC couldn't ignore him any longer.
On just 5 days' notice, the dream is realized tonight for Diego Lopes.
On 5 days' notice against undefeated Movsar Evlov, Diego gave his opponent all he could handle, even coming close to locking in a couple of submissions. Ultimately, he lost the decision, but won the crowd, a $50,000 fight of the night bonus, and a permanent UFC contract. Next up at UFC 300, Lopes would face Gavin Tucker. Diego made quick work of the Canadian, taking under 2 minutes to finish Tucker by submission with an armbar. Finally, a winner in the UFC, Lopes would face Pat Sabatini next. This time he would finish his opponent in just 90 seconds by TKO, landing his third straight fight bonus. Diego was becoming must-see TV. Next up, he would get a second chance at a ranked opponent. Diego would be facing the 13th ranked featherweight, Sodiq Yusuff. Lopes steamrolled Yusuff, hurting him over and over again, and finishing the Nigerian-American in 89 seconds this time by TKO. 3-win by finish in under 5 minutes of octagon time, Diego was on his way to the top of the division. Lopes would get a chance at a fighter in the top 5 next, former title challenger and submission specialist Brian Ortega. But Ortega fell ill hours before fight night.
UFC 303 live on pay-per-view tonight. Brian Ortega is out of the co-main event against Diego Lopes. He had a fever of 103 degrees. After the weight cut, he was sick into the evening, woke up, he was still sick. And that brings us to what we have now. This is an unprecedented situation because Diego Lopes is still fighting. Diego Lopes, we're gonna show you, making his way to the arena. He had to re-weigh in, and he did so at 161 pounds. So here's Diego Lopes re-weighing in, and we have an opponent, and it's Danny Gay.
Lopes would go on to dominate Danigay over 3 rounds. After the chaos and 2 weigh-ins in 24 hours, this was a particularly impressive performance by both men. Diego would finally get in the cage with Ortega at the Noche UFC event at the Sphere. Lopes would knock down and bloody Ortega throughout the fight on his way to a 3-round decision win. Lopes had arrived in the top echelon of the UFC featherweight division. Lopes would then weigh in as a backup for the UFC featherweight title fight between champion Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway just 1 month later, signifying the UFC front office had big plans for Diego. Topuria would go on to knock out Holloway, then did something surprising.
Former champion Alex Volkanovski will be taking on number 3 ranked Diego Lopes for the vacant UFC featherweight title. Topuria has felt like he's done all that he can in that division, and he feels like he's cemented his legacy, and his body cannot make the weight anymore. So Topuria will be moving up to 155 pounds and will be vacating the featherweight title. So the way that this works is, as soon as the first punch is thrown in this fight, the title is vacated.
Now, April 12th, 2025, the ultimate test. Can Lopes beat the greatest featherweight of all time, Alexander Volkanovski, for the vacant UFC featherweight title? From Dana White Contender Series loser to UFC gold, one final step remains: